Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to Play It Paint It Live. Hope you guys are having a good Monday evening. Time for another one of these. I'm just going to go ahead and load up my comments section right now, and we'll get going in just a few seconds here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to live streaming, and hopefully we have a good quality stream tonight. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. And this is telling me bad. Oh no. Bad stream. Bad quality. Okay. Well, if it's bad quality, I apologize. Anyways, stream. Oh, bad quality. Okay. Well, if it's bad quality. Okay. You can hear the delay there. I want to go ahead and mute that on the other monitor. But anyways, for those of you who were watching my Twitch stream last night, we got started on some Harry Potter. So tonight we're going to continue Harry Potter, again using contrast paints. Okay, so just to recap some of the stuff we did last night, we worked on the three kids from Gryffindor. So here is Harry. Nothing's been sealed yet. You can see a little bit of blotchiness in that black. That's a little annoying. That's the Reaper black. It just doesn't, for whatever reason, it just doesn't cover. See how it's kind of flashing there? It's kind of annoying. I think the satin varnish should clean that up a bit. That's what I'm hoping it will do. But otherwise, it's Harry. And then you have, what's his kid's name? Ron Weasley. Ginger kid. Ron Weasley. Gryffindor. So you have Ron, and then you have what's her name? Emma, whatever her name is. Hermione. She's got her book down here. I think, yeah, she's reading from her spell and doing her little thing here. So that's what we worked on last night. And they look pretty good. Like I said, majority of them were done using contrast paints. And tonight we're gonna work on Dumbledore. So you can see I've already done the face and the hair, but we're mainly gonna work on his outfit, and his outfit is very pastel. So we're going to be doing a lot of mixing and experimentation with the contrast paints. And then if there's time, calm down, folks. But if there's time, we'll work on little Voldemort here. You can see I just blocked in some color with the airbrush. But we'll use some contrast paints on him as well. But yeah, he's shooting the lightning bolts. I actually do want to forget the name of that contrast paint that's like specifically for that type of lighting / plasma effect. But for now, we're going to work on Dumbledore. I need to pull up a generic image of Dumbledore. So hang on one sec. I'm going to type in Night Models Dumbledore. And I do a dumb accent. That's all you need to know is I do a dumb accent when we're talking about this kind of stuff. Could have sworn I saw some Dumbledore up in this piece. Well, the image search is giving me every model except for Dumbledore. It's giving me the super fancy Dumbledore, where he's like got a big old flame thing with the fires. Seriously? Dumbledore. I kind of remember he has like gray, like some of his outfit's gray, some of it's kind of a pastel color. This is bad. What? All right, hold on. Oh, well, okay, that's close. I need some that are related to that image. That's not working. Not working. I'm just gonna put it on my phone. My phone should have it. It's weird. My phone can find Dumbledore better than Okay. Let's try it here. Night. Models Dumbledore. See, even, okay. And images. And there we go. Okay, so I'll show you guys. So here we go. Here's the night models Dumbledore. He has, this is like a pale blue gray and kind of like almost like a gray lavender. It's just a lot of pastels. He's got gold buttons. He's got a little yellow stripe there across the top and a yellow tassel on his hat. So let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna start with the lightest bits first. So the gold buttons and I don't even see the tassel. There's the tassel. Okay. So gold buttons, tassel, and that kind of thing. Hey, what's up, Nelson? So we're gonna start with a little bit of the cyan and yellow here, but this is where contrast paints get a little dicey here because we got to do precision level work. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to do a little beep, and we're going to draw that down here. He's got a little tassel there, and then he's got a couple of buttons. Boop. Remember not to screw up. It's just contrast paint. Contrast paint does not really want you to screw up. So don't screw up. It's like rule 1 of contrast paint. Do not screw up. That's why, some of the criticisms of contrast paint is it's not really for noobs because there's a lot to learn about using contrast paints. That's why people are watching every video labeled contrast paint, and why, even on my own Discord, I'm getting like a ton of questions on contrast paint, right? So now we're going to work on the inside of his robes, and it's weird. Is that like does he have like a vesty type robe? I think so. Yeah. So there's like a lavender part, and then there's the greener part. So with the lavender part, what I'm gonna do is I think we'll dig up some violet ink, and because I don't actually have, let's try something very different, right? So if you guys know your color theory, right? So if I can go with enough blue, a little bit of red, and we're going to mix in some apothecary white, I should be able to make the lavender color that Dumbledore wears, right? So I'm going to go about 1.5 drops, well, 2.5 drops of blue. We're going to spike that with a little bit of blood red. Then, and then we're going to use this apothecary white to desaturate it. Okay, so I'm going to use 3 drops of apothecary white. So this is going to be very pale, and I would rather it start off pale and work towards, I can adjust the colors what way I want. Ooh, that's starting to look cool. That's cool. I don't know if that's the right color. Looks like you've got a little too much blue in it. So yeah, it's got a little too much blue. I'm going to add a little more red. So again, this is where experimentation occurs. See if we can get it to purple. There we go. Now it's a purple. And That's looking correct. I think that looks right. It's a little dark. I'm gonna add one more drop of Apothecary White. And if Apothecary White it doesn't do, we'll add just the medium. Right? Which I've done that before. That looks good. That looks correct. Okay, cool. So, so what you normally do, what you can do is if you have something that is primed, you can test it, right? No one's gonna look at her. She's actually primed a little bit darker, but I'm gonna do a little section here just to see how this goes. Yeah, that can work. It's still a little darker than I want. Still a little bit dark. Okay, let's continue the desaturation process here. So now, instead of adding white, I think I want to add because this is going to be pretty pale by the time I'm done mixing it all up, right? And this is kind of a resource intensive way to get at this color. But hey, you know, if you're using contrast paints and you're trying to get a color, that looks right. Oh, that looks good. Okay. Okay. We're there. All right. Here we go. I'm going to start thin and then we're going to work our way to where we want to go. Okay. Yeah, that looks correct, sir. It looks right. But here's the issue. It's like trying to get it to hit in all the exact spots you want and in none of the spots you don't want. Okay, so there we go in there. Then we're going to go. Now, I know that Nelson probably isn't 100%. He wouldn't be 100% freaked out if I got the color a little bit wrong. So that's why I'm experimenting a little bit. I know as long as I'm close, he'll be okay with it. But this looks spot on. This looks correct. So it's cool. That's kind of like a gray lavender that we made just using the contrast paints and our ability to kind of eyeball the color correctly. So it's good stuff, right? So this is all part of his Dumbledore's fancy garments here. And again, whoa, gotta be careful when we're applying this. You're just fired. No! If I get this color wrong. Yeah, it's cool because what's cool about painting this model is I have none of the actual colors that you should be using for this model. So we're going to try to derive them all from contrast paints. And it goes back to some questions that were being asked of me today. How do you deal with contrast paints in terms of mixing, in terms of getting additional colors or toning colors down or desaturating them, right? And that's kind of what we're working on right now. Is here is how you actually. Now, I probably could have gone back and I probably should have written down like, okay, this was 2 drops of red, 2.5 drops of blue, and 4.5 drops of apothecary white. I should have written that down. And if you want to write it down and say that's how he got that color, then more power to you. I'm just bad, so I'm not gonna. I don't like keep a notebook of colors, and I know a lot of painters do that. They keep a notebook of like how they got to exactly every color, and I don't do that because I'm lazy. And I hope that Nelson never needs me to paint another Dumbledore ever again. So, but if I need to, I guess I can always go back to the stream and go, oh, how did I get that color? And fast forward to this part of the stream, and voila, there we have it. Okay, so this is the lavender color for Dumbledore. It's like a gray lavender color. And again, the question was asked to me because the red and the blue, when you just mix them together, it's going to be very high chroma. It's going to be very powerful purple. And even if I had the actual purple that I would recommend, you still have to modify it to get to this color. So again, that requires mixing, and it requires a little bit of experimentation, right? So this is so I'm just going to even them out. Make sure that we're all good here. Okay. All right. So there's that. So now, well, hold on. Before I move on, let me just I'm just going to stress this again. The two ways that you affect your tone, your color, and your saturation for contrast paints is there's two ways. If you use the contrast medium, what this does is this is going to thin the color, and therefore I'm going to talk a little. Hey, what's up, Jose? So I'm going to talk a little technical here. So if you use contrast medium to thin your contrast paint, what this does is this keeps the same chroma, but it thins it down. Okay, so it makes the contrast paint thinner and thereby more transparent. But you're not directly affecting the intensity of the color, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. I don't know. If not, I'll find something to prime and kind of show you. Did I get anything shitty back here? I can maybe have like a pre-prime something. I'll use this. This is kind of a this is just how it comes out of the package, and they say you can paint this, right? So here's what I'll do. I'm gonna take blood red and show you a couple of different things real quick. Okay, so if I take blood red, and I'm just gonna take a drop of blood red, and I'm gonna find my bottle of medium. Where did it go? I bet it's down here. Aha. So I'm going to take a bottle, I'm going to take a drop of contrast medium. So just a straight 1-to-1 and show you guys what that does. Okay. What that's going to do with the red, oh, and I should probably paint a section. 5-hour round trip to LAX. You got it, man. The relatives are killing you, dude. They're killing you. We should be playing Arstea. Should be having a good time. Anyway, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint this center panel here with the blood red. Okay, just to show you guys. Here is what blood red looks like when you don't do anything to it, right? So blood red's a fairly intense color. It's a lot brighter than you may want your reds all the time, but there we go, right? So now we're going to mix it with a little contrast medium. We're going to thin this out. And this isn't going to affect the intensity. It's going to affect the viscosity. It's going to make me a little thinner. and not me. I wish I could. Then it'd be great. I could get rid of my dad bod. But anyway, this is going to make this thinner, and you can already see now it's behaving. You see how more transparent that is? I don't know if you can, but right. So I'm gonna have it creep up to there, right? And you can see how that's more transparent than there. But technically it didn't lose chroma. It has not been desaturated, okay? So now, third experiment, we're going to take a drop of the blood red and we're going to mix it with a drop of the apothecary white. Okay? This is why when the contrast paints first came out, I told everybody most important colors to get other than snakebite leather and Talisar blue, because you guys went nuts over that shit. The most important colors to get are the Templar black and the apothecary white. Okay, because black is a pain in the ass to paint, and white gives you more than white. It gives you the ability to do this for a second. Okay, so I'm going to add one drop of blood red and one drop of apothecary white. And what this is going to do is this does not necessarily affect opacity, but it is going to desaturate the color the same way that you get when you mix white paint and red paint. You know, you would get more of a pink. This isn't, because apothecary white isn't a true white, and because it's a contrast paint, what you're going to get is a more desaturated. So it's going to be thick, just like the other color is. It looks like I actually have to actually show this. It looks like I'm going to have to add more white to the mix. Yeah, because that looks pretty close. But we're going to let them dry. But anyways, what it should do is it should tone that red down to not quite a pink, but it's going to be a more muted red, if that makes sense to you guys. So anyways, maybe on camera these all look the same, but you can see that the contrast media makes it more transparent, and this should make for a toned, a more toned down red. I'm going to add a little bit more apothecary white to that red just to show you. Maybe eventually I may hit more of a pink color, but not really, because again, the apothecary white is actually more of a gray. But there we go. Yeah. So you'll see this is a super dulled out red that I'm going to paint right here. See that? It's just as thick as the other colors, but that's a dull, now that's a dull red. It's desaturated red. Okay. So anyways, that's how you would control the intensity of your color and the opacity of your color when you're playing with contrast paints. Okay, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that to get the colors I want here for Dumbledore, because like I said, we just did that. I made a desaturated, almost like a lavender, for this part, and then the other part, the rest of his robes are like they're like a almost like a gray green, but I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get there in a really weird way. All right, because that's what we do, is we get there in a really weird way. I poured off some of that color. So if you have any questions or anything, let me know. Let me know what you're working on too. Maybe we can spark some ideas off each other and talk about, hey, how do you get this? What are the things? How do you, well, you know, that kind of thing. There were words in there. You're just gonna have to trust me. Okay, so we're gonna take. So actually, I'm gonna start with this Pterodon turquoise, which everyone swears you don't have a use for, and I'm like finding a lot of use for this color because it's actually a pretty dope color, in my opinion. But I'm gonna take a little drop of it. And like I said, I want to desaturate. I don't need a thinner Pterodon turquoise. I want a desaturated Pterodon turquoise. So I'm going to mix apothecary white with it. And I'm going to go like 4-1, right? Because I know I really want to depower this color. And that looks pretty good. That right there already looks pretty good. That's a pretty dope color. Okay, so I don't think I want to go any lighter than that. But let's go ahead and let's do our thing. Templar, quiet, Jose. No questions from you. Stop it. Okay, so here we go. So this is going to be, so you see, that was once Pterodon turquoise. And you can see I desaturated it by adding apothecary white to it. So as long as you're familiar with those concepts and you understand the difference, right? Either you want a more translucent version of your contrast paint, or you want a more desaturated version of your contrast paint. You can get that way. Now, if you add black to, if you add Templar black to these colors, then it will darken the paint. But my worry is that it will also increase opacity. And for those of you who don't know what opacity means, opacity is basically the paint's solidness, right? It's its ability to actually completely cover whatever it is you're painting. And contrast paints work by being semi-opaque, meaning they let the undercoat show through, they let that undertone show through, and that's really what gives you the contrast. Is the paint will migrate its color down into the crevices, and then towards the tops of the surfaces it will appear lighter because it is more transparent. I just find it really ironic that the paint that is designed for newbies is actually going to require some know-how on your part, some understanding. It even requires arguably a more difficult um, control, because you want to have precise brush control. And if you're gonna, the thing that kind of breaks my heart about these contrast paints is I imagine somebody that's like, always been intimidated by painting, um, and uh, finally, they hear about these contrast paints and they're like, oh my god, and they see like they see some results of what people have done with contrast paints, and they go, oh, I'm saved, I can paint my army now. Awesome, love that. But then they come to find out, okay, you need really precise control of your brush. You need a way to get at a consistent undercoat. You can't really make mistakes because that's a pain in there. It's a pain in the ass to correct. And then you have to have, in order to derive other colors and other tones, then you have to have some understanding of how to manipulate the paints for, like I said, for opacity and for saturation. That's kind of sad. It's kind of sad, but at the same time, I think that there's going to be people that they just go, especially because it's for GW products. It's like, oh, I bought ultramarines. I'm going to paint ultramarine blue. I'm going to follow the heavy metal guide to contrast paints to painting my space marine, and they'll get that exact result by just sticking with the product and shelling out the extra money to fill in the gaps of their color palette, right? They'll get there, like they'll get it, but they just got to spend a little more money. Whereas we're trying to save a little bit of money and just kind of, work within the colors that we've got. Full disclosure here, I wouldn't even be working with this color had not, my LGS just handed me this color. They just gave it to me. You want a contrast paint? Yes, I do. Cool. And they gave me this color, and they gave me Skeleton Horde, and I was pretty stoked on that. I was like, that's awesome. But anyway, well, that leaves out, guess, stick away So if you prime it white and another one black with the same contrast paint, it will look differently. Yeah, Nelson, it won't even work on black primed paint. I mean, black primed minis. You have to start with a light undercoat. You have to. And in fact, GW recommends one of two colors. They recommend a Wraithbone, which is like a warmer color, and then they recommend a and then the I forget the other color, but it's like a gray. It's like a really light gray. So you get a cool tone and a warm tone, and the contrast paints will behave differently depending on what your undercoat is. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so now, so we're going to derive another color because his hat is like, well, that leaves out. I guess I'll stick to whatever. Nah, man, it's not that bad. I'm just being informational, man. It's not that big a deal. Okay, so his hat, see that hat now? That's a pastel green. I don't happen to own any of the contrast greens, but how the hell do you make green? You know how you make green? Use your color theory, man. A little yellow and a little blue. That's how we do it. And guess what? We're going to do the same trick to desaturate the color. Okay, so 1 drop blue. So it's a tiny little drop, actually. 1 drop yellow. And what I do is you mix the color. Actually, I'll just show you what I'm doing. How about that? How about that, Octave? Why don't you just show us what you're doing? All right, let's just do that. See if my little wet palette will fit in the camera area. Here, see that? That's what I'm working with right now. 1 drop blue, 1 drop yellow. Okay, and we're going to mix these together. And it's going to be a green. And it's a cool green, but as you can see, that's a much darker green than we want. We want a desaturated green, right? So now we're going to add this apothecary white to it. And I want to add like 3 drops of this, right? Let's start with 2. Let's mix that up. And you can already see, there you go, man. It's already pretty pale. Like that's kind of where we want to be. I think I'm liking that, man. I think that's where we want to be. All right. So there, that wasn't too hard, right? We just got the green we wanted. As long as Nelson isn't a total color expert, and you're fired if he, if he doesn't do that. We're cool. We're just experimenting using his expensive Knight models Dumbledore. No big deal, man. We're throwing caution to the wind. And we're gonna do this. And he has that little ribbon in the center there, which I'm not really sure. Maybe I just leave it the color it already is. Because life is short. We can decide. So glad you volunteered your stuff. Yeah. Nah, man. Nelson was just like, just paint some Harry Potter for me. And I was like, okay. And I said, I don't have any of these weird pastel colors for Dumbledore. So let's bullshit our way through this. Sorry, it's supposed to be a G. This is not supposed to be a G-rated stream. You guys are adults. We're cool. But you see how precise you have to be if you're dealing with like really tiny areas there where you've got adjacent colors. Like I don't want that green to spill over to the yellow there. Okay. I changed my mind. We are going to hit that. We're going to hit that little band. You want to know why? Because it's going to bug me if we don't. That's why. So we're going to use a little bit. We're going to use a little bit of Skeleton Horde here for this Mammer Jammer. And And because it's such a thin thing, I'm actually going to downgrade my brush size. Now, here's another sort of painting 101 thing that people need to know about contrast paints. You remember back in the day when all the artiste types were saying what you really want when you're looking at a brush is you want a brush with a big belly and a sharp tip, right? Best brushes that you can buy have a big belly and a sharp tip. All right, so let me show you an example of something like that. Whoa, it's not quite what I wanted. Hold on. Oh, I'll get to you in a second. Where'd it go? Wow, where's my expensive guy? Here he is. Okay, so here's the Raphael 8404, right? By just about anyone's standards, this is a dope paintbrush, and I love dope paintbrushes, right? So, and let me get a little bit wet so you can see what we're talking about. Okay, so when we say a brush has the best brushes have a big belly, right? You can see there, this brush here has a nice big belly right there. That's going to hold the paint. And then it's got to have a sharp tip. You can see, like, look at that tip, dude. That is hardcore. I dot I's with that homie right there, right? This is what I'm using right now. This is a Blick Master Stroke 1. This is the Raphael 1. And you can see the Raphael 1 got the bigger belly and the sharper tip. So that is dope AF, as you millennials will say. It's a great brush. This isn't the best brush for contrast paints when you're doing this type of work. Like, I could get in there and probably hit that, but what you should and probably do is the sharp tip is more important for contrast paints. Actually, that Raphael would work just fine here, to be honest with you. But what I'm getting at is there are going to be some cases where, like I was saying, Susie Noob or whatever buys ultramarines blue and they're trying to work contrast paints, and they buy that $24 GW brush, that piece of garbage that no one should ever buy. Nobody should ever buy those brushes. There's way better out. Like I said, the Raphael $6 cheaper, and it will kick the ass of any GW brush. I would bet my blood on it. Anyways, that does mean that those GW brushes are shit. You're better off using, if you're going to use something in the LGS, go ahead and use that Reaper fine detail. Use the fine detail 40 as long as it's a sable brush. And I know you normally have no use for a brush like that. I'll show you an example. Okay. All right. Show you a perfect example of that. Well, Dumbledore here. We're gonna work. My lovely wife did something really, really sweet for me the other day. Okay, she tried to buy me a brush. It's really sweet, really sweet. She tried to buy me a brush, and she bought me the brand I wanted, the Winsor Newton brush. But she bought me a 000. It was a 000. I don't remember if this was the brush she bought me, or she bought me one of those, the miniature range Winsor Newton brushes. And look at this bad boy. Ugh. Like, that's not a good brush for painting. It's got no belly to it. If you were to use standard paints, the paint would dry as soon as it hit that tip. It would just evaporate off of that. It would be bad. It's not a good brush. Don't buy the Winsor Newton miniature series brushes. Just stick with Series 7. And like I said, sharp tip, big belly, that's what you want. Anyways, you normally would go towards the bigger belly brush, but you can use those for contrast paints because you do really want to be precise with where you're, if you're going in and doing buttons and doing ribbons like I just did. So, okay. A couple other things here we're just going to knock out real quick. The wand is going to be snakebite leather, or what's left of the wand. See that? Night Models? Nelson showed me this. Super sad. All the busted wands. Here. Now he's just holding a something. He's just holding something shaped like a thing, right? All right. So we'll do that. And we're going to do he's got like kind of these like armbands that are a darker gray. So I'm going to use Basilica Gray for this. Basilica Gray, also one of the best colors in the contrast range. It's just it's very versatile. It's what you would, if you want something sort of dark, but you definitely don't want black, it's great for that. It has another use too, and I'll show you that in a second. All right. And Basilica Gray, there's a terrible mold line there, sorry. But Basilica Gray is kind of a thinner, it's one of the thinner contrast paints. And you can actually control opacity quite well, depending on how thick or thin you apply that. Okay? All right. And here's one thing you can do. Let's go back with our favorite paint, or Pterodon turquoise. And I'm going to paint the base because I want the base to match all the other Harry Potter bases. So I'm going to just paint a little Pterodon turquoise there on the base. I'm going to liberally spill that around. Another interesting tip here. Ooh, got a little bit there where I don't want it to be. So just buff that out essentially. Just dampen your brush, buff it out. Good thing the base I used for that is Pterodon turquoise. All right. So let's get all that done. Okay. Now check this out. You see how he's got this little embroidering there on his robe? If I want to bring that out, and I started with the Pterodon turquoise base, what I can do, like I said, this is going to require a bit of control on your part, but I can just shade it directly with Pterodon turquoise and just pop that sucker out. Or like Two Live Crew used to say back in the day, you gotta pop that coochie, is what they would say. It's not me, guys. Don't get mad at me. That's what Two Live Crew would say. Okay, I had nothing to do. I was not a member of Two Live Crew in the 90s. Okay. So if I want to get this fine detail in here, right, and just bring a little more shadow to it, I can just go in with a little of that. And it's going to help me define this. I can even shade the back side of the lapel here. And I don't want to go too nuts because it's pretty. This is a pretty pale color. But that's what we're looking for. Okay. Cool. He's looking pretty good. And then if I left that Pterodon turquoise there to dry, it's going to be too intense. So you can see what I did for the kids is I layered the Basilica Gray over it. And then it looks more like Night Models. Because for whatever reason, Night Models paints the bases like that. They make them super dark. And they kind of, the way Night Models, like they shoot the minis is they make it look like it's all in super low light, which makes it look cool, but it can also be difficult to kind of distinguish the colors you're actually using and all that good stuff. Feel like it needs another once over just to solidify that color a little bit more. So I'm going to give it another half coat. Does mean I lose a little bit of contrast, and that's the trade-off that you will always face with contrast paints. If you want the color to look more even, you're going to give up contrast. But don't be afraid to give up contrast, because it's going to look fine anyways. I think this looks fine. Unless Nelson again fires me. You're fired. He would say it just like that too. All right. Okay. Make sure. And I want to get, now if I want this lavender to pop more, I just hit it with the full intensity color. Or the other option is you actually just go back and hit it with a true wash. But I don't need intensity here. I just want a little more even coverage. So there we go. Okay. Okay. We'll let that color dry a bit. In fact, what I need to do actually is I gotta paint. Well, I got the Pterodon turquoise out. Whoops. I need to paint the bottom of Voldemort here. It's unfortunate because Voldemort is going to be playing off of a lot of variants of this turquoise color for these spell effects. Right, some of the lighting and the spell effects and all that kind of stuff will be similar. But we might as well get the base done right now. And we're going to work on the sneck too, because the sneck is awesome. I'm not 100% sure we'll be able to finish this guy during this stream, but we'll see how far we can get. Let's just keep an open mind. Okay. Anybody else working on anything awesome? Hopefully. Hopefully. This is a pretty awesome model. Not going to lie. Pretty cool. Okay. So Dumbledore is drying. Well, he's not quite drying. Let's hit this with the Basilicum Gray on the bottom. You can see that that's already deepening the whole thing, setting it apart. And then let's paint the base black right now. So, oh my God, we're gonna use actual paint. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any like specific questions or anything. Don't ask me about the Harry Potter game because we haven't tried it yet. I know nothing about the game. I watched a Night Models playthrough of the game, and it just looked confusing and strange. But probably pretty fun, I think. I would think. Probably going to be a pretty fun game. Now we need to paint a Gandalf mini and have them fight. Just like the fanboys want. Or they may be shipping them if you're talking Tumblr. The Tumblr fandom may want to ship Gandalf and Dumbledore here. All right. Okay. Fun fact, did you know that Snake Nagini was a female human being? She used to be able to transform through the ability of animagus. It hurts me saying that. Hey, somebody's going to say that, and they're going to demand that be a thing. Anyways, okay. Let's go look at a picture of he who shall not be named. Let's see. Night models. Here we go. Oh, that's a private painted one. Where's the actual, like, official? Is there an official painted one? Yeah, there is. There had to be. There was one. No. Wow, there are some really awesome ones. I think when I put Dumbledore in, they had one. Yeah, but you don't get. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So that's him. So we got to figure out. Now we got to figure out that like grayish skin. You got these like goldish serpents. And then you've got like a bright green spell effect there. I think we can do this. We can do this. Let's go. How the hell do you get in? First question. How do you do the ice? All right. Time to break out the good brush because we're gonna do the eyes right now, buddy. Buddy. So a little bit of black gray and a little bit of water. This is all just going to be a lot of wild color stuff that's just going to happen painting this guy. And getting at a pair of eyes that deep behind a spell effect could be a little bit of a problem. But I think we got this. Okay. Okay. And oh. There's just a lot going on with this model. Nagini is dark green, a hint of a goldish pattern. All right, we'll figure that out. We'll get something close to that. Bit of a goldish, so goldish green. I think we can do this, man. I think we can do this. I think I gotta, while I've got this out, I also want to we're gonna paint Nagini's eyes. Just go ahead and do that. Okay. You know all those weird reds I was experimenting with earlier? Well, guess what? They work perfect right there. Look at that. It's like I planned it. Right? If you don't want, this is one of those areas where you're going to want a couple different reds, desaturated red, and then a little bit more of an intense red behind it. Well, looky, right there. Let's take some intense red. Put it right there. Let's take some intense red and put it right there. He's also has his mouth open. Okay. And now let's do now weird thing is, do we want Voldemort to have pupils or not? I lean towards pupils personally, but you can tell me if you think he should have pupils or not. I think he should have pupils. You guys, if you Nelson, if you feel strongly one way or the other, please let me know. Because you're the one that's going to be looking at this model in the days to come, and then you can decide whatever I like. Haha, pupils then. Just tiny ones though. This is night models here. These are just tiny, teeny tiny little pupils. Whoa, that was super tiny. Oh, getting in here sucks. There we go. Tiny little pupils. That's all we wanted. There we go. Okay. Now here's a cool little thing. If you look at that art, you see how there's like just a little bit of pink there? Just a little bit of hint of some like regular flesh color beneath it? I think I can get that if I'm super careful. I think I can get that. And I also want to introduce a little bit of this in the mouth to kind of calm down what's going on in there. There we go. Right, just introduce a little bit of shadow. Again, that's the Basilican Gray. Such a cool color for that. Right, this is a situation where I'm normally using like P3 Armor Wash to do this, but you can also use Basilican Gray for this same thing. Okay, all right, so now let's go ahead and give him a little bit of color around his eyes to give him like, yeah, he was kind of once a person. And I think I've got dark oath flesh here. What happened to my other? I have Gulliman flesh, which is actually probably the better color. Yeah. So we're going to use a little Gilliman flesh. Your screen went black. It's weird. Maybe you weren't allowed to see the magic tricks here. All right. So still using the fancy brush here. And I'm going to just kind of blend in a little bit of skin right around the eyes there. Right. So now kind of like, yeah, he was kind of a person at one time. Right. A little bit there beneath the ears. We'll kind of shade a little bit here. Yeah, there was also a little bit here off the elbow. See what that Gilliman flesh kind of just gives you a little bit of tinge there, so you can see a little bit of his natural skin tone. I'm just gonna I'm just going to detail them up with a little bit of that. Not too much, just enough to make you think about it, that it's there and whatnot. So you can see here on this elbow, that looks a little too dark. So another trick you can do, if you don't like what's going on there, you can actually use the contrast medium as a little bit of an eraser by just applying it directly on where you've got contrast paint, and it will help thin it out. It'll help. See how it's gonna take some of that off. There we go. So that's just gonna soften that up a little bit. You can even move it a little bit if you want. Cool. All right, and where did that? A little more Gilliman flesh. I want it around the knuckles this time. And then we're going to start on the snick. Well, first I gotta paint let's paint the white people on this neck. Okay. There we go. All right, let's look at this. Let's look at the color on this neck. You said it was a gold green. I think the green is from the. Like it's a little bit reflective of the spell effect there, but for sure there's a gold or a yellow undertone, right? So let's make a gold undertone. So we're gonna mix a couple of colors again to get this. Let's go with cyan and yellow, and let's mix a little bit of skeleton horde. Right, I'm actually gonna go skeleton horde. I'll go like 3 drops of skeleton horde, and 3, and we'll mix a little bit of cyan and yellow, probably 2 drops of cyan and yellow. Let's try. Yeah, let's start with 2. Let's see what we get. And I think I can put away my super fancy brush for right now. Let's go back to the workhorse. Okay, that looks correct. Just making it shit up. Maybe it'll work. Just trust me. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. See? Okay. So now we've got a little bit of a gold tone coming down. That's exactly what I wanted. I could be lying and saying, no, I didn't want it, but this is pretty. That is pretty exact to what I wanted. Not going to lie. That's pretty dope, actually. Because there's going to be a greenish tint on the top. So the lighter, so we want to start with kind of a lighter color. Dude, that's kind of a hot gold under. I'm going to have to use that formula for NMM gold, dude. That was pretty sick. Pretty sick. That was nice. What did I do? It was 2 drops of skeleton horde and no, sorry, 3 drops of skeleton horde and 2 drops of cyan and yellow. And don't worry, we'll work some green in there, Nelson. We got this, man. Trust in the system. You know how it goes. And we're actually going to just take advantage of the fact that oh, that was pretty sexy. Yeah, we're just going to take advantage of the fact that the contrast paints are going to blend with each other. We're going to make this into a real thing. Not gonna lie, I think that's kind of a dope base color. I had to do a little work on the fangs there, but it's looking pretty cool. One thing, man, because you have to use contrast paints over a light undercoat, it's the same issue that we would normally warn new painters about painting over white in general, is that you you will see every mistake. And with contrast paints, like getting into the wrong part of the model, you will see every mistake amplified. All right. Stream started cutting out. Sorry, guys. Stupid internet. Go ahead and blame Cox Communications for that because they always get shitty service this time of night when a bunch of people in Orange County start streaming porn. Okay. There we go. Pretty dope so far. All right. Let's clean up that mouth first. We're not talking about my gross jokes. Ha! We're gonna use. We need a bone color or an off-white. Thought I had a pretty dope off-white up here. Let's see. Let us see. There's an off-white. Let's use that. That didn't quite work the way we wanted. Let's use a different off-white. Wow, that's like every color except for off-white. Maybe this guy? There we go. Here's a nice off-white. Okay. Much better off-white. And let's get, whoops. A bit of water. Off-white. Just gonna base coat our fangs. Okay. And then we're gonna take, we're just gonna wash that real quick. I'm gonna wash the inside of the mouth. And then we're gonna do, then to finish off the snake, we're just gonna do a little bit of the green tones that we were talking about doing, right? So that helps. All right, that'll help blend there. Blend the mouth. Cool. Okay. So now we want to get some of that green going. This is going to be a darker green. So again, I'm going to just desaturate a little bit of this Pterodon turquoise that I got planned. I have planned. All right. I have planned. I'm not going to desaturate it too much, so I'm just going 2 to 1. There we go. That's a pretty nice color. Let's see if that's, yeah. And according to the artwork, it looks like it's all kind of concentrated around the top and the sides of the model, of the sneck. Right? So it's so we're gonna really apply a really kind of thin layer of it, so you can see that's kind of where it lives on the artwork. You get this little, you get a little bit of patchy green to it. So it's almost like I'm just like overbrushing a little green on here, and it's blending with that gold look. And it's gonna look a little patchy. That's kind of how it goes on the studio art. Right? And that green's gonna get more intense the closer you get to Voldemort's body. And then if I wanted to, I can continue to shade this down if I feel it's necessary. It probably isn't necessary. I may want to come back maybe towards the bottom here and shade it down a little bit, but that's looking, that is kind of looking where we want it to look in terms of where the green is sitting, in terms of where the gold is sitting. Right? Isn't it cool that like you can still see all of the different tones? Okay. So there's that. Okay. Cool. Cool. Look in there. Okay. So now let's do some actual green, like some brighter green on the spell effect. So the brighter green, again, it's going to be a mix of the blue and the yellow. I'm going to go more blue this time, because the green that's the spell effects are almost more of like a scorpion green than a turquoise. And let's see what that gets us. That gets us a nice green. That gets us a pretty nice green. Yeah, gets us a pretty nice green. Let's play it. It's not bad. Maybe a little more yellow in there. Let's try. You guys have any other questions or anything while we're still rocking here? All right, cool. Now it's starting to look a little more like a goblin green. I need more, even more goblin green. If I'm doing this much mixing, probably should have just used regular paint at this point. This is probably a little overkill, but I did say we were going to be using contrast paints. So hey, There we go. That's the dopeness right there. That is what we were talking about. Right? Because that's going to be a little more green. So the spell effect is it's weird because it's like I said, it's more of a like a goblin green, and the robes on him are more like they fade down to the turquoise color. And again, we don't own any of these. Uh, we don't own this contrast paint. We just made this so that it would work because I want just as more of like almost like a little bit of a demonstration what you can do once you understand contrast paints. Like you can hit so many colors. But you also have to understand what the base coat does. You have to understand the difference between a cool and a warm undertone. That's why GW gives you two different primers. We're not using either of those primers. We're just using our understanding of how to get to that tone. And a lot of this is from like my experience working with glazes and working with inks. If you have experience working with glazes and inks, this is going to be fairly intuitive to you, like how to get the colors you want. What's going to be so cool about this model, though, as you can see, is the spell effects blend into the robes. So we're going to be we're going to be, letting the greens and the turquoise and all that stuff, kind of run together. And I am going to come back and highlight this spell effect because I want it to be I want it to be a little more eye grabbing than it currently is. Like that's a pretty cool color. Thanks, Nelson. It's a pretty cool color, but we want it to really pop out and yell at you. Yell at ya. And by the time you get to the bottom of the model, it's very dark. The unforgivable spell. See, I know nothing about Harry Potter. Avacadabra? Is that really what they called the spell? Avacadabra? Please don't tell me that's what they really called the spell. Come on, man. Really? Is that what they called the spell? Models like this where you just have this like crazy spell effect to work with are super fun to paint. And you actually want to blend a little bit more, like where the snake is coming around here. You can see I'm actually adding some green to the snake. It's avacadabra, not abra. Got it. Okay. So down here at the bottom, what we're going to do is we're gonna now we want that turned on turquoise, but now we want to fade it upwards. So pop quiz for you students here. Attention teachers and for you students, do we want to desaturate the color or do we want to decrease its opacity if we're doing a blend from light to dark? Go on, I'll wait. If you guys can figure this one out. You guys can. Hint, you can. Whoa. There is just a lot of spell going all over this model. It's going crazy, man. Trick question. Not a trick question. Right? What are we trying to do if we're going to color transition from light to dark? Do we want to desaturate the color, or do we want to decrease the opacity? I think a lot of painters should know the answer to this one, because this is what you're doing when you paint transitions like that. Hint, when you layer transitions like that, what are you actually doing to the color? All right. That's pretty dope. There is just so much going on with this model. Man, it's a good thing I mixed a lot of that green, because I needed it. It's going on a lot of real estate. Okay. Actually, should be working with a much bigger brush. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to swap to a bigger brush. Okay, cool. Let that dry for a second. All right. Go. I'm going to have to come back and clean this brush a little bit better. It's because we're doing a lot of shit to it. Okay. All right, so you can see where we're at. All right, so like I was saying, we want to desaturate. Well, we don't want to desaturate. What we want to do is we want to transition opacity. In other words, we're going to go here. I'll show you using the studio art. Okay, so if you're looking at the studio art, you can see that the light is all centered around the face of the model, but as you move away from that, it gets darker, and you kind of fade into a really dark, like turquoise colors and stuff, right? So the way we do this if we were doing standard painting is we would paint darker colors and then highlight and highlight and highlight and highlight until you get to this lighter color here towards the middle. With the contrast paints, we're going to do it the other way, actually, is we're going to, what we're going to do is we're going to transition the color downwards, but we're going to start at the bottom with the most saturated form, the most opaque form of this paint, which is just going to be the straight Pterodon turquoise. And I need to find my bigger brush, which looks like there it is. Okay. So what my plan is because we want to increase opacity as we go upwards, up along the model, is I am going to start with the straight Pterodon turquoise towards the bottom of the model, and then as I work upwards, we're going to add contrast medium to it to make it lighter as we approach the face of the model. Okay. The other thing you can do, and yes, this other green is still wet, is we're going to transition up. Right? So we're even going to so the spell effect is going to be very dark on the bottom as well. And you can see where it's mixing with the green that's already on there. And it should blend together pretty well. Just remember that the lower on the model and the closer to the bottom, the darker these colors can be. See how I'm going to blend that green up the body of the snake as well. It grants us a little bit of continuity with the model. Okay. Let's see how that down here. So all this is just going to blend together like that. Go. So we're going to fade that off. This is super fun because you really are just, you're doing like, this is almost like a cheating form of wet blending. I know people like to throw the word wet blending around a lot, like it's like this sophisticated thing. But if you understand wet blending and where to use it, there's some people that are, there's a lot of techniques where people use wet blending as the main technique, or two brush blending as the main technique to get the effect on their miniatures. And that stuff looks awesome. When they do it right, it looks great. But it's a lot of work. I'm lazy. I want to get there using what I know about the liquids to help get me where I want to go. So I'm not going to do wet blend or two brush blending. I'm going to do poor man's blending. I should say lazy man's blending. Right. This is going to maintain some gold tone on this neck here. You can see I'm just blending that color so that everything looks nice and kind of transitions downward. So it does have a green tinge to it. It's kind of cool that the basing scheme I used can actually be a full transition up this model. All right, so I don't want the color to just stop there. I want it to look soft. See how that's a softer transition now? Just taking the damp brush, brushing away some of that turquoise. Pretty cool. Still working. All right. Oh gosh, it's like a no-go zone in the middle of this model. All right, so there's that. So now let's continue to transition upwards. This time I'm going to add a little bit of the contrast medium to the Pterodon turquoise. And that's just going to allow me to blend and transition downwards. Okay? Okay. All right. So I didn't mess with intensity. I messed with opacity in this case. Right? So I'm using that. And that's going to allow me to blend that Pterodon turquoise downwards. Right? And I'm going to use it there and there. Dude, this is crazy looking now. The base color is perfect too, much like the department ministry floors. Thanks, man. As long as it works. If you're convinced, I'm cool. I'm happy. But yeah, this is fun stuff to do when you're painting. This is the fun part where you get to just really play with the colors, let the colors kind of run, transition into each other. Like, yeah, contrast paints, they've marketed them for the noobs, but even experienced painters can figure out some cool shit you can do with them. And they're just so convenient. So see how I have that border there. I'm going to blend them upwards. I'm just going to take a damp brush and feather them up that way. Feather them towards the model. And you can see how we're transitioning to the darker bits of the model there. See how it's going from, now it's going from lighter to darker as you go down the model, right? Now, if you want to go lighter, now what you have to do is you have to, now you're going to actually have to paint some highlights in, okay? So now I want super duper thin. I'm going to brush it all the way up and then fade it down. Crazy, man. All right, so now I want to fade this down. Just take a damp brush, feather it all down. Okay. And really, once we get to this part, the rest of this is just going to be fine tuning and highlighting. Okay. All right. Am I missing anything major before I move on? I don't think so. It's looking pretty cool. It's like this crazy, the whole thing is just this crazy like watercolor painting. All right. Let's let that dry for a second. Well, in fact, actually, let's paint the base black for right now. So that by the time the black base is dry, I know I can jump back in and start highlighting. I do need to work a little more shadow towards the bottom of the model. We'll get to that in a minute. So far, do you guys have any questions or anything? If you're watching this as a playback and you have a question, leave it in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. Crazy miniature though. Look at that. Just a giant snick and a giant spell effect that flows into a robe. Kind of dope. Kind of dope, man. All right, so let that sit for just a second because I want the contrast paints to dry a little bit before I move on to the super highlighting here. But that's going to do it for the contrast paints portion of this painting. Let me grab a sip here. You see that crazy mold? That makes me sad. Okay, but now we want to fine tune, right? We want to make this look nice and bright. Draw your eyes to the right areas of the model. You know, do what we do. That's gonna. A lot of painters would just leave it right there, and it looks, in my opinion, it actually looks fine. It looks okay. Like you're cool. I just want a little more interest in this area and this area, right? Because that's the focus of the model. Focus of the model is here, right around his face, and then here on the spell effects. A little bit on the snake, you can do that too, but I think really our focus is going to be there. All right, so let's start picking some colors to do this. Honestly, this color is so dope. This is kind of my go-to right here. Moth green from Reapers, from Reapers, from Reaper. We're gonna use this on the spell effect to pick off the right areas of the spell. All right. I'm going to switch over to the Blick 0 to do this. And this is just old school painting, right? Just picking off areas we want to highlight. So we want this to pop. This moth green is a really cool color for doing this type of work. I'm actually going to use it a little bit here, even like closer to the face. The face. Let it kind of dictate a little bit of the color work up here. Not too much though. So everything's so soft right now. Now we're going to transition a little bit more even. Now, I know we've been talking contrast paints this entire time. I don't mean for this to be, I would never mean for this to be like I'm shilling for GW. No, no. I will tell you, they make a good product. This is a good. I feel like this is a good product. I feel like though, the reason why I'm doing this type of work is and explaining it is because I don't. I feel like that's where GW has let us down here. Is they positioned the product one way and then sold you a bunch of assumptions, but they didn't really give you. I don't feel like they give you enough of the facts that you need to really make up your mind about how and if you are going to include contrast paints as part of your repertoire, part of your paint box. I think the way they build it, it's like, oh, you can be a noob and you just paint a thick coat and you walk away and it does all the stuff. Okay, to a degree, yes, but read the fine print, right? There's no fine print on this, and the fine print would say, well, you have to be precise. Well, you have to go over a light undercoat. Well, you have to understand which of these paints act more like washes and which ones act more like paints. And you have to understand basically how to control the liquid to do what you want. And the good news about what they didn't tell you is stuff like this, like what we're doing here. Here's some stuff that you can do with this paint that GW never really even explained to you, right? You can blend it, you can mix it, uh, you can use it to really transition one color to another one without much hassle. So there's all this cool stuff too that's in the fine print that they won't tell you because their target audience is really more they're really more aimed at getting new people into painting. And trust me, I love that idea. Love the idea of getting new people that have previously not wanted to paint or felt intimidated by painting to get into it. That's the idea there is super cool. I don't know that I agree with this specific approach. I think it's going to work. I do. I think that there's going to be a portion of gamers that are tired of playing their gray plastic that know just enough about painting to where they would be willing to try this product and then also be reasonably satisfied with the results that this product is going to give them. Okay. Okay. Let's do a top level highlight to really just give it the last bit of punch that we want. This is the ugh. This is the color I use to close this kind of stuff out, verdigris. Now there is an old verdigris and a new verdigris from Vallejo. You can use either as long as you know how to thin one versus the other. Right? Here's what I'm talking about. Old verdigris is a very, very thick paint. and you can apply it. You have to thin it, and you have to apply it very precisely. New Verdigris is a much thinner paint. You see that? I've really got to stop and mix this to make sure it's gonna do what I want it to do. And then we're gonna cover that. This one, I don't even think you thin. I think you just, the other thing is this one is not as bright. And that could be kind of a problem. I'm gonna give myself a little more pew pew flame thing right there. This color is super thin. Super thin is cool though, because with a model that's like this blended, it's like one giant lighting effect. All right, let's see what we got. Yeah, so this is gonna blend us. We're going to be able to blend towards the top parts of the robe with this. It's like there was a little issue with that arm attaching. It's got all kinds of like crusty right there. Okay. Let's use the old one. That one's just, it's blending, it's too soft. I want to be able to control my lines a little bit more. And if we don't like this one, guess what? I'll pick an even lighter color. Probably glacier blue. Probably where I'm going to end up here. Although this might work. Yeah. And all I really want is a couple of edges here and there. Right? A couple of light spots here and there. Okay. You can see that highlight coming in. Again, all these highlights should be pointed towards the top and the face of the model. So that's where your focal point should be. Okay. Pretty stoked on that. It's looking pretty good. We're going to do the same thing on this side of the model. See, there's some green at the back of his head. We want to leave that in. And again, if you guys have any specific questions or anything, go ahead and let me know. But this is kind of doing what we want it to do. There aren't that many hard lines really on the model that demand this light of a color. So I'm almost kind of just really trying to be soft here and keep the lighting towards the top of the model. I don't know why his back looks so crusty. Looks like he has like warts or something back there. This part looks pretty cool. And you see how sharp this line is right here? You just reinforce that. Right. Just reinforce all the sharp lines. Cool. And you can pick off, if you want, you don't have to, but if you want, you can pick off trailing edges of your spell effect. I like it because it's another interest point to draw your eyes around the model. But again, you can just use contrast paints too, the way we did earlier, and I could have stopped, a couple steps ago. But it's just adding this extra little bit that really helps the model pop the last little bits of detailing. It's kind of crazy how how much blending it looks like this model has. It actually is fairly well blended. We just didn't I didn't sit there and tease every single transition the way like a display level painter would do. They would tease every little transition. Now I'm just coming through and knocking out enough of these edges to draw your eyes all over the model. Okay. Okay. Good. All right. Not bad. Another cool thing you could do here for this green is you could actually use yellow as the top highlight, which is kind of cool as well. All right. The base is dry enough for me to darken it with the Basilican Gray. So I'll do that. And then we're going to let this dry a little bit more again. Whoa. What do I do with that brush? We'll let it dry a little bit more, and then I'm going to seal all of these. Seal all of our Harry Potter. Harry Potter. All right. Oops. Okay. Let that dry. All right, we'll give that a couple minutes to dry. But again, if you guys have any questions, any comments, anything like that, go ahead and let me know. You know what I can do right now? Another thing I can do is I just want to add a little more. I want to add a little more blending around the skin. Right, I want the skin to transition a little bit better than it is currently. Right, just a little fine detail. Skin. There we go. Make that a little bit lighter around the mouth. Okay. All right. Yeah. It's like there was a little. The resin, the Night Models resin is really kind of like chalky, and that can get irritating fairly quickly. You know, it's a little gritty. Just something to be aware of. Oh, thanks, Jose. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too much. There wasn't too much magic going on, if you know what I mean. We just did some blending, and some transitioning and stuff. A little bit of highlighting at the end. And yeah, I think we look pretty dope, man. So close this for now. Oh, give that a minute to dry. So we got to let it dry, and then we'll hit it with some satin varnish. I'm very low on satin varnish, so I'm gonna have to do this crazy operation here, by which I have this giant tub of it, but that's super annoying to work with. I need to put it into a dropper bottle. So where is my satin varnish? That's bad. Really? I took it out already. You have got to be shitting me. Maybe I did take it out already. It's gotta be here. It's gotta be. There's all that plastic putty. Shoot. I mean, I could just put it in very carefully. There it is. This is effing great. Worth the 2 years. Your painting of Lakshmi, my mom and aunt saw it and asked where's the face. So sad. Why they gotta be so judgmental Asian on you, Jose? Okay. Let's do. All right. I may make a giant mess, but Nelson, I promise you it will be nowhere near your models. No, I don't really use the matte varnish. I like the satin varnish. The Vallejo satin varnish, when you thin it, it really does not add much sheen, but it helps. In my experience, it's been more even. Jeebus. And so CQ ran out of satin varnish. So I went ahead and ordered some from Blick. And they sent me this big old Mammer Jammer bottle. What's cool is I can just keep refilling my dropper bottle with it. Like a giant ketchup dispenser full of satin varnish. Do you keep your pinky up while I spray with satin? Yes, I do. Because I'm an aristocrat, damn it. That's how we handle things. So yeah, you just put it back in there. And it's like I just bought a brand new bottle. And I think this supply may last the next 4 Kickstarters for me. You never know. If they were all Batman Kickstarters, it would only last me like 2 Kickstarters. But that's that's how we roll, man. Anyway, all right. I think we are there, folks. Ah. So Richter, if you just jumped in right now, if and when you go back and watch this, I do kind of cover a little bit. I know you had some questions about, what's the real difference between desaturating the paint and thinning the paint, right? Because it does 2 different things. And I painted through an example to show you, the difference between a desaturated color and a thin color. And I actually used, oh, sorry, dude. I actually used an example of like blood red here. I don't know how well this is showing on screen because it doesn't. I'm looking up at my monitor and it doesn't look like it's shown that well. But essentially, this is the regular color, the regular contrast paint there, blood red. This is blood red with the contrast medium. And you see it hasn't really taken so much intensity away, so much as it has thinned it. So you can see it's more transparent, right? And then down here, instead of adding contrast medium, I used Apothecary White to desaturate it. And you can see it's moved to, it's kept its opacity, but it's moved to more of a pink. And so you can use that to get different colors and different tones with the contrast paints, which is basically, other than the turquoise, I don't have any of the colors on this model. These are all, and Dumbledore. I don't have those colors. I basically mixed them all and then got to the different levels of saturations and tones just using that concept of you either desaturate or you thin. Yes, it does look grayed down, and that is desaturating the color. So like on Dumbledore here, his colors are very pastel. So that's the goal, is instead of going like an intense purple, I need like almost more of a lavender gray. And so you use those 2 facts to get, to manipulate the contrast paints and get to the colors you want. That's all. And we just did a bunch of it here. I'm just rinsing out my airbrush, making sure we're ready to roll. And let's go ahead and seal these guys up. But yeah, you know, like I said, you're going to use different, you'll use different techniques to get what colors and effects that you want. What did I just do with that stupid satin varnish? I just felt it on camera and I did not stand up or anything. It's just here. Oh, there it is. It's hiding behind one of my other bottles. Okay. Buy all of our colors. Yeah. I think you can get away with 6 to 8 of these colors. Like I said, I don't have a green or a purple. I just have the primaries, you know, red, blue, and yellow. I have a red, blue, and yellow, a white, a black, and then some flesh tones for fun. And then I have that basilic and gray, which is super versatile. So I think you can get away with like having 6 of them, 6 of the colors, and you're good. All right. We'll seal up Mr. Dumbledore. Seal up Hermione. That Reaper black is a little bit of a disappointment. It's a nice flat black, but it's not, you can see it kind of flashed a little bit there on the base. What am I using as a base for my skin? Usually I go off the Vallejo primer, but if I'm specifically blocking out skin, you can use any sort of bone or cream color. You want to kind of have a warmer undertone. And then these are, for example, this skin here, this is the Dark Oath Flesh, I believe, just over the primer. And then I go back and highlight. I went back and highlighted it a little bit with what was that? I want to say fair highlight or tan highlight. I think tan highlight from Reaper. But obviously you can use, you know, Vallejo. You can use whatever color you want. Yeah, the skin tones are the hardest. I think they're the hardest ones to understand, because zenithal priming is not their friend. You want to go on a nice solid undercoat, and then even then you still kind of have to play around with, well, how thick or thin should I apply it? And then I found that what you want to do in addition to doing all that is you want to be able to kind of move the flesh tone around a little bit too, to get it to sit exactly where you want it, because it'll leave weird patches if you don't. Like that, those skin tones are really great for buffmans, like GW buffmans that have just like super muscle tone to them and muscle definition. They're great for that. They're not so good for like softer featured models. They exaggerate too much. So if you are going to use them over a softer featured model, what you want to do is you want to come back and really highlight it. You want to, I think you want to use contrast medium with the flesh tone, and then in a sense it sort of becomes really just a like a pre-shade more than anything. Okay, so we'll let our guys dry for a bit. But yeah, dude, I don't know, dude. Let's Nelson, let's. I don't want to rush you or anything, but I'm gonna paint some stuff for me this week, I think, and then let's work towards getting enough Harry Potter painted to where we can try out a game. I think that would be kind of cool. We'll try some Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Try some British wizards. The game, the witches, right? I don't know Harry Potter One of those things. We'll see. Okay, so we'll hang out for another couple of minutes. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, uh, yeah, let me know. I This is pretty dope. I gotta say that was fun, man. That was fun to paint. Like a lot of cool lighting effects. Got the blend. You got the transition from light to dark. Do all your cool stuff there. The rest of the models look pretty good. I think, right? They look like they look cool. They're gonna look good on your game board. They're gonna do the things. I wish his one wasn't snapped off, but we'll figure that out. Serious question: how do you not know the Potter? I am so old that the first Harry Potter movie came out when I was, geez, when I was in 20 something. And then when I was like 20 something, and I was like, what the hell is this? This looks like The Worst Witch, an ABC after school special. That's what I thought it was. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to watch. I don't watch little kids running around pointing chopsticks at each other. Like that's not really me. I want to watch some Lord of the Rings. Like put that on. I want to watch adults swinging swords at each other. I don't want to see little kids like they need the second chopstick. They're gonna starve to death. So that's how an Asian person sees all this. but wait, wait a minute. No, how old am I? I turned 45 this month. Yeah. I turned that's how old I am. That means that you to put that into perspective. I am literally at this point in my life. This is a joke that Louis C.K. said, but at this point in your life, I could die within the next 5 years, and people will go, "Oh, yeah, that's sad." Not like, "Oh, he was so young." You know what I mean? They're just like, it's just, eh, you know, heart attack. It happened. Had a stroke. It's tragic. Right? You're questioning when you think the movies came out. Because the first movie came out like around the time of uh, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, right? Those were similar time frames, but I think that's right. I don't know. 2002. Yeah, 2002. Yeah, I was well out of college at that time. 15 years ago, the seventh book came out. Yeah, I don't know. My wife keeps telling me we're gonna get into Harry Potter. She's had to like defend Harry Potter to me because I'm like, it's the worst way. I don't need to see it. It's the worst witch. I don't need to see it. Like, where's I want to watch Conan. I want to watch Lord of the Rings. I want to watch Excalibur. I want if I my I want to watch that kind of fantasy. Hell, I want to watch Crawl. Can we watch Crawl? Liam Neeson is in Crawl. There's cool stuff. Legend, that's a cool one. Everybody loves Mia Sarah, and Tom Cruise is actually pretty good in that movie. And of course, Tim Curry is amazing in that movie. He Man, He Man, the live action movie. Hell yeah, Dolph Lundgren, man. They're gonna make a new He Man, right? That looks terrible though. The uh, yeah, I think Dolph Lundgren was the closest they're ever gonna get. They just that what horrible execution though. Really? They put what's her name in from Friends is in that movie. What the hell? Dude, He-Man was the shit when I was growing up. He-Man, it was just a bunch of action figures, and you're like, oh my god, these are the most buff mans of buff mans. Like, this is before I got into GW, and then the buff mans was crazy, right? But and then that homoerotic He-Man cartoon came out, and that was dope, man. That was like the dopest. cartoon ever. Like, just He-Man only did like 5 or 6 different animations on his show. It was super generic, and they used to do the dope hour of TV was He-Man, and then Fat Albert would be on right after that. And then yeah, She-Ra, they did She-Ra like a year or two later. But She-Ra was kind of dope. She was the Princess of Power, you know. And you saw Red Sonja. I actually did not sit through Red Sonja, and I should have, because that was Brigitte Nielsen, right? It's kind of awesome. Yeah. What's up, Andrew? Yeah, man. This is a dope model. But yeah, I don't know. Never got into Harry Potter, dude. Sorry. There's some things that were just too. Yeah, I'm so like, even Power Rangers is a little beyond my time. I was already past Tokusatsu at that point. I'm like, I don't need to. And then they had Power Rangers. I'm like, wait a minute. And I was like, I think I was in high school or junior high, and I was like telling the other kids, like, dude, that's an actual Japanese show. Just watch the Japanese show. They're like, no, man, Power Rangers. I know Blade Wolf would be freaking out if he was here. Blade Wolf is a huge Power Rangers fan, and uh, yeah, it's the same with it's the same with Gatchaman in Battle of the Planets, right? Battle of the Planets is the dope show. I love that show growing up. I did not know when I was a kid that Battle of the Planets was actually Gatchaman. And I thought Seven Zark 7 was an actual character. And I was like, how come they never have any screen time with Seven Zark 7? It's just, you know, uh, Green Ranger's better than White Ranger. Oh man, we're I don't say that to Blade Wolf. He's gonna be angry. He's gonna. Anyway, here, Andrew. In case you missed it, like, here's some more the Harry Potter miniatures. Harry Potter. There we go. Yes, quite. Oh, they're Spelliarmus. I'm trying to just do weird British voices with the with the Harry Potter miniatures. They're fun though. They look cool. Whatever, right? We got Dumbledore, this broken wand. Sad times. Look. We can do. You know what we can do, Nelson? Is we can take. Shit. You know when I did my Alchemist for Guild Ball, and they have all the like clear spell effects. Like, we can go buy. We can buy like a couple of those miniatures from CQ that have the spell effects, and if you want, we'll just clip them off, and I'll spray them with ghost tints, because that's what I did. And then you would just glue, you just glue a little fireball or a little lightning spell effect there, right? You just glue it straight onto the model and look dope. It'll make up for the broken wands. It should look pretty cool. But yeah, we'll do that. I regret I had a bunch of those from the Alchemist stuff, and then I just gave them to Yvonne. Because she's like, do you have any minis? Like, yeah, I have shit ton of minis. Here, have all the stuff I didn't use for my Alchemist stuff. So, damn, came up with that idea about a week late. Hey, what's up, Crazy Puerto Z? Yeah, you should, dude. Did you see I don't know if you saw my shaft and spade that I painted with the contrast paints. They like pretty, they're good. But like I was saying, like I pointed out earlier, though, is contrast paints are ironic in that they were designed for new painters. They were designed to make painting easier for people, but I feel like even then you still need to watch some tutorials. Like, there's still some education involved in working with contrast paints, right? Because like Richter's asking me questions about contrast paints. He's not a new painter, and a lot of the people picking them up, lot of you guys aren't new painters, but there's still a little bit of like nuance, experimentation, and there's still some questions on how to actually deal with the paints, how to actually make them work to your advantage. But I think once you learn that, like once you learn the cool, um, there's easily like a dozen or so little tricks you can do with contrast paints that are above and beyond what they build them as, and you can do some really awesome stuff with them. So I feel like it's contrast paints were marketed for a specific audience, and then maybe GW just figured the rest of us would find the other stuff that you could do, like more experienced painters would figure out like some cool shit that you could do. GW claims to supply over a special gray straight out of the pot. Not really. Yeah. Yeah. It's weird. I saw uh what was that? Luke's Apps. He did a review of contrast paints, and he brought up a really interesting point in that for example, the Templar Black behaves very differently than say Talisar Blue. They behave very differently as paints. And he was saying that it would be helpful if they were all consistent in how they behaved. Now, I don't think that's 100% possible just because of the different tint strengths, the different tone strengths that you have to have in your palette. So a color like Talisar Blue is going to behave much more like a super wash, whereas I feel like Templar Black is just like, it's just a winner, dude. Like, it's just, if you're painting night models, if you're painting Batman, if you're painting black cloaks for Harry Potter, you're doing that kind of stuff, the black is just a must. It's a great color. Anyway, yeah, yeah, we ended up. I blame you in part for that because you broke out minors, and then people were on their B teams and they're like, f this, man. And they went to their A teams after that. But it was good times. It was fun. I got to play a couple of good games. I think no, I played all three games. That was cool. And I painted some Aristea, painted a couple of Aristea pieces while I was there. So it was good stuff. Let's see, Orc Flesh like 1-to-1 with medium, while with way better with 1-to-2 medium. Yeah, it's true. I actually saw Jose. It's true. I have photo evidence that Jose was painting miniatures. I think 3 or 4 of us went back there and shot photos of of Jose painting miniatures. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You should do zenithal priming with these. It does make a difference. But it makes a difference in some colors more than others. So it's a safe bet to do it anyway. Like I was saying. So like your all-star colors are like basilic and gray is just super useful. I just find use for everything. The Templar Black is just it's just like the best black. If we never paint with black, right? You never, like, you'll paint the lip of the model black, but you never actually paint black on a model before this color came out. Now you paint black directly on the model. Then blood red is a great color. If you're gonna do, your primaries, then for sure Talisar Blue is awesome, but it's super hard to find. This color rocks the shit though. This is like one of the best colors in the whole thing. And then you have blood red, and then you have cyan yellow, right? So these colors you can make your purples and greens and oranges and that kind of stuff out of these 3 colors. So those are great. The snake bite leather, everyone goes nuts over the snakebite leather because it's so versatile. This is, this is another one that people are going to buy up a lot. But I think the real secret is that people aren't doing so much is the black is a freaking winner. The Basilican Gray is awesome. And then Apothecary White. Apothecary White is one of the, it's going to be the most misunderstood one because you'll paint Apothecary White over a really light gray primed model. And if it's not a Space Marine, you're going to go, what the hell did I just do? Doesn't really look like what it doesn't really look like it's doing much, but it does cool stuff for that. If you're doing white clothing, white robes, if you're doing even white armor is kind of awesome here. But what I like about it is you get all that, and like I was showing you guys earlier, you can use it to desaturate other colors and get pastels out of, like, this is a super bright blue. This is a super bright red, and you can get pastels out of those by mixing the white in with there. Then you got the flesh tones, which I thought were trash when I first applied them. I'm like, this looks like shit. And then they dry and they're pretty good actually. They're really not bad at all. And then finally, Skeleton Horde is awesome too. Yeah, Epic Duck Studios. He's done like over a dozen videos now, just experimenting with contrast paints. He does a cool one with like non-metallic gold, and I did some non-metallic gold on some of my miniatures as well. Pretty awesome for that. How's Aristea? Dude, that game is, I misjudged that game. It's good. It's a fun game. It's a fun game. Now, it's not like super competitive like Guild Ball. It's not nearly as tight as Guild Ball. It's got some crazy, like, you could spike hard with Masashi and like kill a bunch of dudes in one activation. $44, that's a good price, dude. Andrew, you will like it. That's my opinion. I know you will like the game. It's like MOBA style. I was worried that the game was going to be like Malifaux, where if you have more models than the other guy, that you're going to have this huge inherent advantage. And the way the draft system works, I think they do a decent job of balancing that out, such that if you only have, a collection of 8 to 16 Aristea models, and you pick your 8, you're still going to be in great shape. And then they added new scenarios that dude, I liked Aristea. I mean, we played it when we first opened it up. We played it for like a week and a half. Then I got just sick and tired of rolling blank face dice. Blank face dice make me upset, right? I like the mod. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm gonna keep playing it because I like the models, but I hate blank face dice. Blank face dice make me cry. And my other complaint about the game was the scenarios in the book are too similar. And I was like, we gotta, come on, you're calling it a sports game. You gotta do some sportsing. It's everything in the book is just sort of, oh, control this zone, then control this zone, and then control this zone. And yeah, I know Batman has blank face dice. It makes me sad as well. But I still like the game. But anyway, so those scenarios were a little too similar. We played all 5 scenarios. I think me and Jose played all 5 scenarios. I had sick of rolling blank face dice. I'm like, it's still pretty. I'm going to keep it, right? So, oh no, is the stream going down? Anyways, then me and Chris played this past week, and Chris showed me the new scenarios that they added, and we played the capture the flag scenario, and I'm like, holy shit, that's exactly what this game needed. Like, this game is awesome. Yeah. Sorry, guys. You tell that person to stop streaming RedTube or something. Whatever they're watching over there, they gotta stop streaming. But yeah, um, it's I think Andrew, I think it's a fun game. Yeah, dude, the Maximus model is so cool. So it's pretty serious now. I went out and I got myself a case for Aristea. You know, it's pretty serious now. When I buy a case for a game, you know that's like now like to me I've like legitimized that game in my mind. Like, oh, now I went out and bought a, yeah, and I painted the plastic minis, which is something I swore I wouldn't do because I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna paint the metal minis for Aristea, and I'm just gonna be a purist, and I just want to paint the metal shit. Now I'm painting the plastic stuff so that I can have a broader array of models that I can play around with. But yeah, dude, it's fun. It's a fun game. Like I said, don't take it seriously like you would Guild Ball, and treat it like a MOBA. Like, oh, this character's cool. This character's cool. I used to think that some of the characters were just absolute auto includes. I no longer think that. I think that each character plays so uniquely that while I do feel that there are some characters that are just inherently strong, like Musashi, um, like Hexer, I wouldn't consider either of them to be auto includes, honestly. They're both gonna make my 8, but they're cool. Yeah, dude, it's cool. Like I'm this is how hardcore. Like, hold on. So I finished Nelson. I finished those. What I might do this week. Rah! If I can find it. Shit though. What I'm seriously considering doing is because I have a plastic set, a model of the starting 8. Like I could I can put these on nicer bases and paint them up, and then I have like a demo set that I know like I can just throw around and I won't freak out. No one will break my models, that kind of stuff. And hell, it'll again, it's another thing we can use to experiment with contrast paints. That bendy sword sucks. We'll figure that out. But then what's cool about these is, like I said, these are like travel ready. So like if I have to go on a business trip or something, I can bring a Guild Ball team and I can bring Aristea, and I'm not lugging around a bunch of metal. Oh, they're playing. Oh, it's a PDF. I'll um, I'll post a link in our chat or whatever, so you can look at the scenarios. And then Cody showed up, and he had the 3D terrain, and I was like, holy shit, this game is so much better with the 3D terrain. That's another thing too. Like the 3D terrain, in my opinion, maybe not everybody, but in my opinion, I was like, oh my god, like this game feels different now. It's like it's weird. It's like you found out it's like one of those rom-com movies where the girl takes off her glasses and suddenly she's just the hottest thing ever. And you're like, oh, once she took off her glasses, wow. Anyway, oh my gosh, yeah, I've been kind of mean to these miniatures. Like, look at that. I'll have to I'll have to take a hairdryer and bend little Parvati back here. Obviously, they're not nearly as cool as the metal ones. Yeah, Nelson, there, dude. I want you to play this, Nelson. Come on, man. We gotta play a game together again. I'm getting tired of this us not playing games. Getting tired of it, man. We gotta play something. Yeah, that's my issue with Guild Ball resin models right now. Is uh, Pedro wanted to borrow my miners team. Well, he didn't want to. I was like offering him my miners team, and I broke out. Uh, what's his name? Fuse, and Fuse was like on his base, but here's the base, and Fuse was like this, like way back. It was very upsetting. It just, and then then you've got like Fathom's her spear. It's like, dude, I'm resin models make me sad, and I'm sitting in front of a table full of resin models, but still, dude, I like I just love my metal models. But the issue with metal models is like it's annoying to get on a plane and have to explain to TSA. Like back in the day, what's all this metal in your bag? And they open it up and there's little army men. What is this, sir? He's like, leave me alone. I gotta have hobbies. Explain that to TSA. It's just annoying. Like if you, that's why like when I travel for guild, like when I travel around and for business and I want to play guild ball, I usually just throw like plastic kickoff set in my, in my bag or whatever. But this could be something like that too. I could paint these up and just throw them in my bag, right? Sir, are you a nerd? Yeah, they would ask me that. They would think they think I'm part of the Chinese surveillance state. Well, he is Asian, and we are. There was that whole thing with Huawei devices spying on us. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure this Asian man has tiny cameras built into those metal models. Wow, this stream ended a while ago. I feel bad if you're still watching this on playback. we're done. We're talking about other shit right now. We've moved on from contrast paints. But yeah, I don't know, dude. I should paint these. It'd be kind of cool. It's just it is a step down from the metal stuff I've got. Jeez, Parvati. Stand up, Parvati. I have to put them on decent bases because this is not going to fly for me. I think this is horrible. So I'm going to have to go through, I'm going to have to cut them all off their bases, which it looks like the hardest ones are going to be these fat boys, 8-Ball and Maximus. So I'm just going to have to destroy that whole base. Maybe her, actually, I could probably just destroy the base and clip that off. But anyways, yeah, I got to get up and go to work tomorrow, guys. But I'm going to try to paint, I'll paint some of these this week as well. So we'll move on. I'll rebase those. I'll paint them and start painting. This is just hobby talk. The Land of the Rising Sun. What? You just bought mini? Yes. Andrew is joined the fray. Dude, it made me sad because of like, Spencer tried to do an Aristea thing. And I was like, oh, Andrew, I'm gonna tell you about the draft system, which is dope, right? Like I was saying, right now there's a bunch of characters in Aristea. But and I was like, well, if you have like 20 characters and I just have a starter set, I'm gonna have an inherent disadvantage. Well, not really. What? I did finish Batman, Richter. I'm done, dude. Those are all done. I've finished the entire thing. I'm done with Batman. If you want to like see specific models, let me know. I'll shoot photos of them. But anyway, so the way the draft system works for Aristea organized play is you pick an 8, right? You have a roster of 8 players, each player, and so you have your 8 players. This is just a starting 8, but whatever, right? So like I would put Dart in my 8. I would put Cosmo in my 8 or whatever. But so then when you're going to play your organized play game, you do a face-off roll against your opponent. The winner of that roll then picks for the game you're going to play, the scenario. They pick their first model and then they ban one of your models, which is nuts. It's like, okay, you have 8. Well, I don't want you to have Maximus. Maximus is banned. So they pick their first model, they ban one of your models. Then you assuming you lost the roll, because I always assume I lose the roll, you would pick your 2 models from your 8, and then you would ban one of their models. And then they pick 2, and then you pick 2, and then they pick 1, right? So that's how you end up with the 4 that you're going to end up playing. But what I like about that is there's this cool little tactic, there's this draft tactic. The ban is in there, and then picking one model, picking 2 models, picking 2 models, and then picking 1. It's cool, man. Yeah, it's pretty sick. Like I was like, oh shit, that's kind of awesome. It's a nice way to balance, people that have large collections versus people that have smaller collections. So you got the starter box, Soldiers of Fortune, the Maximus, and the dice pack. You got Human Fate is dope. I just finished painting Human Fate. Dang, all those models are in the car right now. But yeah. Anyways, dude, we gotta play. Let me know when you're around. This week kind of sucks for me. Maybe Thursday. Oh, maybe Thursday or Friday early afternoon. Might be able to do. Damn, Smoke and Mirrors. I need that for Cosmo. I need to get the rules for Cosmo. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I gotta get up in like 5 hours, guys. So I'm gonna call it here. I want to thank everyone for watching. Yeah, dude, let's play some Aristea because it's super fun. You're gonna try to get Friday off? Well, yeah, if you have time Friday between, let's say, noon and 4, let's try to get in a game, dude. So anyways, have a good night, everybody. We'll catch you later.